Thank you. I'm really honored to be invited to do this closing. I'm the Reverend Kimberly Quinn Johnson, and I serve the Unitarian Universalist congregation of the South Fork here in Bridgehampton on the east end of Long Island. I use she, her pronouns. And I want to begin our closing the way that we begin our worship services each Sunday, with a land acknowledgement. We don't claim perfection with our land acknowledgement, but it is part of our evolving practice to be in right relationship. And so I encourage you to engage in your own acknowledgement as we wrap of the land where you are, either in the chat or in your heart or aloud with those who are gathered near you. We, from East Hampton to Riverhead and Shelter Island, worship and reside on the ancestral lands of the Montaukett, the Shinnecock, the Korchag, and the Manhasset. And we take this time, that time, to acknowledge the Native people who claimed this land as home before European colonization. We honor generations of their care and their stewardship with this land and all the beings that share this land. And we honor our relationship with our Shinnecock neighbors today and their continued struggles for sovereignty and justice. This morning, I explored with my congregation the concept of play. And so I want to invite you to enter with a spirit of playfulness, which I know can feel hard. Every day, we are faced with so many reasons to get serious. Global forces of domination, war, poverty, the continued rate of planetary destruction is literally breathtaking. And still, I want you to play, because I want you to remember that there is more than that. I want you to remember that in the midst of all of those forces that would have us cover our heads in despair, there is also hope and joy and life. So I'm going to ask you to play with me as we engage in this ritual adapted from a ritual created by my friend and colleague, the Reverend Elizabeth Dwin of Boston, Massachusetts. In a little while, I'm going to invite you to see if you can find a seed to share in our ritual. It might be a stretch for wherever you are. Some of us are joining from outside, or maybe you are in an office, or you are curled up in bed with no plans to get out of that bed anytime soon. But hear me out. You have options for where you find your seed. Maybe you have birdseed, or an everything bagel with sesame seeds or poppy seeds, or an acorn or a squash, an apple cut in half to reveal the seed in the middle. Really any fruit, almost any fruit would do. Maybe you have packets of seeds because you are preparing for spring. Something from the outdoors that you think maybe might be a seed, or even chocolate. We Googled this one, and it is technically the fruit of a bean, of a seed that comes from a nut. So our theme for this weekend has been regeneration. And that made sense to me because this whole year I have been thinking of seeds. When I say this whole year, I mean from August, June, July, I have been thinking about seeds and what they tell us about potential and patience and resilience and, yes, regeneration. And so I want to read a little bit from a memoir, the memoir of Hope Jaron, who is a geobiologist. She spent most of her life studying trees, flowers, seeds, and soil. She writes, "A seed knows how to wait. Most seeds wait for several years before starting to grow. A cherry seed can wait for 100 years with no problem. What exactly each seed is waiting for is known only to that seed. Some unique trigger combination of temperature, moisture, light, and any other thing required to convince a seed to jump off the deep end and take its chance, to take its one and only chance to grow. A seed is alive while it waits. Every acorn on the ground is just as alive as the 300-year-old oak tree that towers over it. Neither the seed nor the oak is growing. They are both just waiting. Their waiting differs, however, in that the seed is waiting to flourish, while the tree is only waiting to die. When you go into the forest, you probably tend to look up at the plants that have grown so much taller than you ever could. You probably don't look down, where just beneath your single footprint sits between 100 and 1,000 seeds, each one alive and waiting. When you are in the forest, for every tree that you see, there are no less than 3 million more trees waiting in the soil, fervently wishing to be. When the embryo within a seed starts to grow, it basically just stretches out of its doubled over waiting posture, elongating into official ownership of the form that it assumed years ago. The hard coat that surrounds a peach pit, a sesame or mustard seed, or a walnut shell mostly exist to prevent this expansion. In the laboratory, we simply scratch the hard coat and add a little water, and it's enough to make almost any seed grow. I must have cracked 1,000 seeds over the years, and yet the next day's green never fails to amaze me. Something so hard can be so easy if you just have a little help. The right place, under the right conditions, you can finally stretch out into what you are supposed to be. Each beginning is the end of a waiting. We are each given exactly one chance to be. Each of us is both impossible and inevitable. Every replete tree was first a seed that waited. And so I want to invite you to look around for the seeds near you. What do you have? Do you have an apple or a mustard seed? Maybe rice, coffee beans, a squash seed? Okay, I'll stop while you find your seed. Or maybe you want to pull an image up of your favorite seed on your screen. And so now, take a breath hold on to your seed. Hold it in your hand or with your gaze. See it as if for the first time, containing everything needed for a beginning. All the ingredients of life.
Loosen, loosen, baby. You don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Loosen, loosen, baby. You don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go.
Imagine what lies before your seed, whether it will become food for your body and in doing so become part of your cells, your life, nourishing you, or whether it will nourish you in other ways, maybe as art or usefulness or something sacred on your altar, or whether it will try to grow, to make another such plant as the one it came from. Imagine who might sow this seed. Imagine the weeds and the rocky soil that might be before it.
Holy breath and holy name, will you ease this pain? Holy breath and holy name, will you ease this pain?
Imagine now what came before it, the plant that grew this seed, on what land and with what water and with whose hand it grew. The sower of the seed that grew the plant that made this seed. The weeds and the rocky soil that might have tried to kill the plant that grew this seed.
Loosen, loosen, baby, and you don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go. Loosen, loosen, baby, and you don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go. Loosen.
And now, bring to mind a seed that you are sowing, that is thriving in the rhythm of the light and the dark and will bring new life, that is waiting patiently to be born. It could be an idea, an intention, a project, a relationship, small or big, intimate or ultimate. Bless that seed. Bless it that it may find good soil, though there are a million reasons why it may not. Bless it that it may grow, though there are a million reasons why it may not. Our patience and waiting, our quiet nourishment will do what it does. And the seeds that survive will be new life everywhere. If you have a seed, Hold it up.
Loosely, baby, and you don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. You ease like pain. Loosely, baby, and you don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. You ease like pain.
We are never far from a seed. No matter the grief, the chaos, the destruction. We are never far from the beginning of all that is possible. From a seed that knows how to wait and then push itself from the soil. A seed that can be sown in grief or in joy. From something tiny that contains all the ingredients it needs for new life. One seed that can make it through. There is new life all around us.
Reverend Kimberly Quinn Johnson, thank you so much for the most meaningful and perfect closing for our 3 days of information and celebration. Thank you for bringing our attention to the new life that we can be born through us. And I love the seed way of thinking. Thank you very, very much.